Umaasa ang pamahalaan na mas lalago pa ang ating ekonomiya sa mga susunod na taon. Bunsod ito ng paglakas ng economic indicator sa kabila ng mga nagdaang kalamidad. Ayon sa National Competitiveness Council, patuloy ang pagbuhos ng investment sa bansa dahil sa kumpiyansa ng investors.
We're extremely happy, to be hosting World Economic Forum. It's the first time in over 20 years that it's been running in East Asia, and the pattern has been that they tend to go to a country which is really beginning to break its pattern, move up competitiveness rankings, strong economic growth, and it's really breaking out, So I think picking the Philippines this year is a recognition that the country has really picked up the pace and shown the world what it can do. And just like it picked other countries before, it's picked the Philippines this year. Well, we track, at NCC, we track 12 global competitiveness reports. 5 of them are actually produced by the World Economic Forum, from an overall index to specific industries like travel and tourism, information technology, trade, and gender. And on all 5, we're up. And we're up in a big way. Look at the overall global competitiveness report, the index, we're up by 26 in the last 3 years since the Aquino administration has come into office. On tourism, we're up by about 12. Enabling trade, we're up by 8. And IT, we're also up by 8. And it's in gender gap report, which I think might surprise people. We're number 5 worldwide, and the only ASEAN country in the top 10. So that one, women's participation in the workforce and in overall management, I think, has been recognized as a strength for the Philippines. So we're doing very well across those 5 reports. But in another 5 reports that cover governance and other topics, economic freedom, we're also up. So in the Corruption Perceptions Index, for instance, for Transparency International, we're up by 40 in the last 3 years. So that's about one of our largest jumps for any index. But we're up on the Economic Freedom Index, many reports. We've been upgraded. It's still an issue, actually. There have been progress. There has been progress in the way the country is attacking the problems of corruption, especially on procurement side, in the way the budget is disbursed. But problems continue, and I think this is something that unfortunately cannot be fixed overnight, and just requires a huge effort to fix. So we've made progress, but I think that we need to work on this a lot more. I think infrastructure has got to be the next big thing that we need to work on. This administration has made headway in education and in health, but in infrastructure we need to pick up the pace. I think number 1 on our list in the business community for infrastructure is airports, particularly here in Manila, which is the gateway. We really need to fix airports and add airport capacity. Yeah, they're increasing the infrastructure spending as a percentage of GDP. Today it's about 3. It should be up to 3.5% this year, 2014. And by 2016, they'd like to bring it up to 5%, which is kind of on par with the rest of the region. They bring up the percentage to the budget to about 25% of the entire budget. It's at about 20% now, so it's a big number, and we need to move that number much higher. But if I were to pick sort of the 1 or 2 items in infrastructure that need to be really heavily invested in, I would say airports would be number 1 on our list. And probably we need it to be a very close second between ports and roads. Well, the beauty about building out airports and roads is that it benefits tourism, but it also benefits industry, it benefits agriculture, it benefits the general population in many ways. So it's not specific to an industry, it helps pretty well every industry, because when you build an airport, you just have the capacity to bring in not only more tourists, but just generally more visitors and more business visitors, meaning investors. And we're a country of 7,000 islands, about 100 million people. We need to move people and goods all over the country very efficiently. Air and sea, of course, are the best forms of transportation in an island, in a nation of islands. Airports are going to be very critical for us.
No.
The one thing you have to remember about exports and about trade is it's really all about being part of a global supply chain. I mean, when we say exports, we are not always or not exclusively shipping out a finished product. We could be shipping out a component which is part of a finished product, which is finished somewhere else. So, so long as you're part of that supply chain and the markets remain strong for that product, then your exports will grow. So, today's trade practice is not totally competition based, but it's also collaborative and cooperation based. So that if you're part of a global supply chain, it could be that many parts of a single product could be made in many different countries. You have to be part of that chain. If you're not part of that chain, you're in trouble. There's definitely been a progression from the so-called sick man to a very progressive and more successful country. I hesitate sometimes to use the word miracle because miracle is a bit tough to explain in terms of what the causes are, and you see the effect, but no one really knows what the causes are when you talk of miracles. And miracle connotes sort of a leap of faith, but in fact, it's you could call it a miracle, but in fact, it's kind of the product of hard work and good policy, good execution. I hesitate to use the word miracle because it kind of downgrades the effort of a lot of people to create success. And I think we got to give success, and give credit where credit is due. People are successful because they worked hard at it, and now we're seeing that work product, I guess, of all that hard work. You can see foreign direct investments begin to move up. We need to accelerate the pace. I think this ties closely to how we perform in competitiveness rankings. There's a high correlation between that and investments, but it takes a lot of other things. I think the credit ratings upgrades will help. But at the end of the day, it's the enabling environment in terms of policy and actual physical infrastructure, plus the availability of other factors, a good labor pool, educated workforce, and just an overall you have to have a nice place actually that will attract people to invest in the country, but actually choose to live in the country, because investors will eventually want to live in a place. So that goes back to infrastructure. We create a better place, we generally will help everybody and will attract more investment. Definitely climate change is one risk, the effect it's having on weather patterns, whether we have disaster or not. It will affect things like agricultural production, fisheries and things. So that is definitely a large risk, but it's not the largest risk. I would put in a higher priority in my mind, higher risk would be complacency, that we might begin to think because we are doing well now, we'll be doing well just automatically. No, it requires a lot of hard work and you can't afford to be complacent. I would place at my topmost risk leadership. You pick the wrong leadership in the future and you generally put make the country vulnerable to falling back again. So I think transition to leadership, over the next 2.5, 3 years, we have to pick good leaders. Leadership does matter. You pick and we're deep, it's going to be deep trouble. Well, it's not just the policies of the president, but actually, I think foremost in people's minds is a matter of integrity. I think integrity is going to become the key issue and the key criteria, or should be, for selecting leaders. Clearly, leadership with criteria has helped the country. In the past, we've seen leadership without integrity absolutely damage the country. Integrity has to be one of the key factors, I think, behind the success, and I think it's no accident that when all these conferences come to Manila, the number one question, the number one observation is governance has definitely changed for the better. But the number one question in people's minds is, can we maintain it? And what is it going to take to maintain this? And I think it's institutionalization of all the policies that we see, and it is leadership and integrity. Bottom line is that it's going to take a lot of hard work to keep this momentum going, and I think that while we should be happy with our success, we should keep on working hard.